Intermittent fasting's efficacy when it comes to fat loss is unparalleled if you do it properly. Like, try to name a diet that's more powerful. I'll wait. But the keyword there is if you do it properly. There are rules to this, and as with any set of rules, mistakes are bound to happen along the way. That's just how it works. So in this video, I'm going to show you the 5 most common intermittent fasting mistakes that's preventing you from losing weight. Let's start with easily the biggest and most common mistake that people make. You're treating intermittent fasting as a panacea. Listen, you have no business starting intermittent fasting if you don't have a proper baseline diet, meaning avoiding industrial seed oils, not drinking liquid calories, severely limiting your alcohol intake. Don't eat refined carbs and refined sugar like cookies, candy, cake, pasta, pizza, cereal, and etc. Don't consume refined dairy like skim milk or low-fat cheese. And then you want to get adequate and high-quality protein and eat the least toxic plants that your body tolerates. If you just do all those things, you're gonna lose weight, like a lot of weight. You can then introduce intermittent fasting into your routine to further optimize your health. Because one of its most important benefits, and there's a laundry list of it, is that it helps regulate important fat loss hormones like insulin. I have said this many times, but insulin is what controls your body weight. You only want to keep a pulsatile response throughout the day. Intermittent fasting also restricts you to a compressed eating window, which means it's a lot easier to create a calorie deficit. And that's where mistake number 1 comes in. You're just treating it as a panacea. You're still eating way too much refined and ultra-processed foods, and you're most likely not getting a bolus amount of high-quality protein every meal. And I get it, like I've been there before. A lot of people get into intermittent fasting because they see all these crazy weight loss transformations on the internet. So they do it, they just jump straight into it. But they don't really adjust their diet all that much, if at all. They just eat less of their insulinogenic/obesogenic standard American diet. That is a recipe for disaster. Much like you can't outrun a bad diet, you can't outfast a bad diet. Especially if you're eating these refined garbage foods. Unfortunately, 70% of the standard American diet comes from those low-quality foods. This is also the stuff that we give to our kids. Childhood obesity is also at an all-time high. So if you keep eating these insulinogenic foods like refined carbs and refined sugar that are often laced with seed oils, a typical deep-fried fast food meal with soda is a perfect example of this. So your body then is in a constant state of trying to put out the fires because of inflammation, and the Latin root word for inflammation is to set on fire, by the way, caused by these frankenfoods. You become insulin resistant, eventually leading to metabolic dysfunction. I think the term frankenfoods is apropos when it comes to describing fast food. I mean, here's a picture of fast food that's 10 years old. Only the wrapping paper looks old. Like there's something wrong with that picture. So stop eating garbage food. Think quality over quantity when it comes to your meals. Mistake number 2, you're not eating enough. And this is just typical crash diet mentality. You want to expedite fat loss, so you severely cut calories while intermittent fasting. It sounds great, but here's the problem with that theory. If you do intermittent fasting but you're eating a lot of low quality food, like low calorie and low fat versions of regular foods like skim milk, low fat cheese, or low fat ice cream, for example, which then results in overconsumption because you think it's healthy, you're doing more harm than good because those foods are highly refined. Food manufacturers, for example, use fat replacers like citrus fiber. Citrus fiber sounds healthy, but it's fake food, as well as refined sugars like sugar alcohols and artificial sweeteners and all sorts of processing to make these foods taste good. So when you eat this stuff, it short circuits the brain. It creates something called nutritive mismatch, which then results in something called reward prediction error, resulting in insatiable cravings. Sound familiar? Rewind this video and listen to that again if you have to. Heart-healthy vegetable oils like cottonseed oil used to be considered toxic waste. It was literally used as engine lubricant until a company called P&G discovered that it can be recycled through an insane amount of processing that includes deodorization. True story. It's a pretty deep rabbit hole. There are also over 60 different names of sugar that food manufacturers can use. But let's say you're a woman eating 1,200 calories a day, But again, you're scared of calories, so you're eating a lot of these refined and low-fat/low calorie versions of foods. And then the unintended consequence of severely cutting calories is you're not eating enough high-quality protein. If you do that over time, your body will eventually slow down your metabolism. And I gotta admit, that will work at the beginning for about 6 months. But eventually, your body's gonna catch up to this survival state, and it's gonna slow down your metabolism to 1200 calories because that's all that's coming in. So to keep losing weight, you have to cut even more calories and or do an even longer fast. You're also just constantly hungry all the time. And nothing illustrates that more than studies done on the Biggest Loser contestants. They lose a ton of weight while they're on the show following Eat Less and Move More. They're also miserable. But after they're done the show, because their metabolism has slowed down, they eventually gain all the weight back and then some. Bottom line is, when you're fasting, you need to avoid these highly refined, low-calorie foods. Again, focus on food quality because quality dictates quantity. Stick to single ingredient, mostly unprocessed, nutrient-dense foods. You need to be able to pronounce the ingredients of the foods you're eating. Get adequate and high-quality protein. And make sure you're always eating to satiety, like being hungry sucks. I often see people in the comment section of my videos say that they're not losing weight on OMAD. This is why you're not eating enough protein. Mistake number 3, you're still using too many crutches. A perfect example of this is drinking bulletproof coffee. Listen, I'm not necessarily saying that drinking bulletproof coffee is bad. It's freaking delicious. And it's a great way to get people started when they're new to intermittent fasting. But bulletproof coffee still contains anywhere between 300 to 400 calories per cup that your body now has to process every time you drink it. If you just cut that out, there's your daily calorie deficit to lose weight. Another popular crutch that's doing more harm than good are artificial sweeteners like Splenda or stevia, or drinking diet soda, or really any drink that's branded as 0 calories but is artificially sweetened, because your body still has a physiological response when you consume that stuff. Nothing that sweet gets a free pass once it enters your system. You can't fool your body. It's akin to eating calories in the dark and thinking that it doesn't count because nobody can see you. Your body then starts to trigger the production of insulin because it thinks that there's food coming in when you use artificial sweeteners or drink diet soda, even though there's 0 calories. The problem is there's actually no food coming in. Your body then activates the hunger hormone ghrelin and your cravings go up tenfold. Again, these highly refined foods and fake foods short circuits the brain. Notice how you're always hungrier after drinking a can of diet soda? And what do we do to remedy that? We drink another can. And this goes back to that concept of nutritive mismatch foods creating a reward prediction error in the brain. There's also a lot of studies that shows that using artificial sweeteners and drinking diet soda destroys the gut microbiome, and it makes sense. This stuff is completely foreign to the human body. Studies have also shown that drinking diet soda is linked to obesity and even cancer. I've had people come into my coaching program where they're drinking this stuff like water. Listen, the whole point of intermittent fasting is to create a compressed eating window so your body can activate cellular repair processes and fat burning, among other things, during your fasting window. It's not about trying to see what you can get away with. You can't fool your body. According to Richard Feynman, the first principle is you must not fool yourself, and you are the easiest person to fool. Mistake number 4, you're overdoing it with intermittent fasting. I was actually guilty of this a few years ago. I used to be super rigid with my intermittent fasting schedule. So I get it. I had that mentality that because something is good for you, then more is always better. But by definition, intermittent means occurring at irregular times, not continuous or steady. I mentioned earlier that you should use intermittent fasting as a weight loss tool. But just like a lot of things, you can definitely do too much of a good thing. It's kind of like water. You'll die without it, but if you drink too much, it can also kill you. So it's all about taking the right dose. Some of the potential negative effects of overfasting can be seen in this 8-week study of an 8-hour feeding window. And they saw a significant decrease in testosterone. That study applies to both genders, by the way, because women need testosterone as well. And it's important to highlight that study because the most common intermittent fasting schedule is a 16-hour fast, which comes with an 8-hour feeding window. And being the overachiever that I am, I actually did OMAD every day for a year back in 2019. At first, I got amazing results, like I got super lean, but eventually it started to affect me negatively. My testosterone wasn't optimal when I got blood work done. I was always cold. I had cramping problems whenever I did something physical like go for a hike. And it started to affect my sleep negatively. I was over fasting and it made so much sense after seeing that study. The good thing is it's pretty easy to remedy. I just had to pull back a little. Like, don't be rigid with your fasting schedule. Be flexible with it, like fast intermittently. For example, maybe on weekdays, do a 16-hour fast. Then on weekends, have brunch or even breakfast with your family or friends or by yourself and have a 10 to 12-hour eating window. That's what I do these days. On Saturday or Sunday, I'll have some bacon and eggs with some pancakes made out of sprouted grains with 90% dark chocolate bits and some sliced banana drizzled with raw and organic honey. And my body is so much happier. This is why I never eat out for brunch, by the way, because I can make the highest quality breakfast food at home. And listen, if you're over 40 who's watching this, I would not even recommend doing a 24-hour fast. Like maybe just once a week, but stick to a 16-hour fast at most. Because when you hit 40, you need to prioritize getting adequate and high quality protein more than once a day and do resistance training to stimulate muscle. That's how you overcome this thing called anabolic resistance that tends to happen to people as we age. And nobody talks about that. Sarcopenia, which is the loss of muscle mass, isn't a disease of aging. It basically starts when you're done going through puberty. And if you don't know what you're doing, you become part of the majority of people that lose half a pound of muscle and puts on 1.5 pounds of fat starting at age 25 to 55. And it's pretty easy to spot the people that are sarcopenic. They just look squishy and they feel squishy. And that should explain why your body isn't responding to the same diet that you used to eat in your 20s and 30s and the weight just keeps piling on every year. Not even intermittent fasting can save you from that. Again, you need to know what you're doing. There's even new studies that for women, doing intermittent fasting just 3 days a week is enough to get them benefits. Mistake number 5 is a 2-for-1 deal. You have unrealistic expectations and you're not making supportive lifestyle choices. And this is what kind of ties everything together. Let's have some real talk. The weight you're trying to lose did not happen overnight. Like it probably took you months, if not years, or even decades. So doing a couple of weeks of intermittent fasting isn't magically gonna get rid of it. It doesn't work that way. And just as important is you also want to make supportive lifestyle choices that upregulate your fat-burning metabolism, like living an active lifestyle, managing stress, make meaningful connections with people, and get adequate and quality sleep. Sleep being the foundation of health. Sleep is more important than diet and exercise combined. I think a lot of people forget that. Because not getting adequate and quality sleep, which is 7 hours minimum, moves every health metric in the wrong direction. I probably should have started this video with that stat. That's honestly why I don't work with night shift workers in my online coaching program. I'm not a magician. Also, did you know that the half-life of a dysfunctional fat cell caused by the evolutionary inconsistent consumption and overconsumption of these industrial seed oils is around 12 months? That's why you have a lot of stubborn fat that won't seem to go away. So you need to play the long game here. The problem is, people just throw in the towel right away with intermittent fasting when it doesn't meet their unrealistic expectations. You can't just go from 0 to 100 miles an hour, especially if you're someone who's used to eating 6 small meals a day using the standard American diet as your template. Fix your diet first. Again, create that proper baseline diet I mentioned earlier. Focus on food quality and just cut out the in-between meals. If you just eat 3 square meals a day, comprised of nutrient-dense foods in its most bioavailable form, you're gonna be shocked by how much weight you're gonna lose. Depending where you're at and if you do things properly, we can be talking about double digits of weight loss in the first 3 weeks as you become more metabolically flexible again. Some of that is water weight, by the way. But achieving metabolic flexibility should be your #1 goal when you're just starting out. After that, 1 to 2 pounds of fat loss per week is a more sustainable number. Also, don't forget to celebrate the non-scale victories, like fitting better in your clothes and having more energy. To me, non-scale victories are actually way more valuable. Now, if you enjoyed this video and want to keep doing a deep dive because there's so much more to learn, then you're gonna love this one. I'll see you there.